Okay. Good afternoon, Melbourne. Good afternoon, Australia. And good day and evening to all our international listeners, too. I'm Helen Taylor. Welcome to my show, Inspired Radio. I'm here with you every Monday, 4 p.m. Melbourne, Australia time, and Sunday, 11 p.m. Central Time for US and Canada. And I'm having conversations and stories here to inspire you. This is the BBS Radio TV platform, and we're going live to more than 190 outlets worldwide. Inspired Radio is all about change and getting uncomfortable and shaking up the status quo, helping us to break free from limiting systems and embracing our infinite potential. My guests are here to tell their story, to reveal how they've overcome change and made better lives for themselves and, of course, for others, and to inspire you with their stories, because storytelling is creating a new world. So today I'm talking with Mike Palmer. He's frontman for Know Your Rights. He's a long-time activist and educator who's been helping Australians learn about how to stand up for learn about and stand up for their legal rights. Once upon a time, Mike sat around a table somewhere in Burwood, Victoria, having conversations with others about our legal system and trying to figure out where it was all going wrong. He became a success and life coach and started up groups like Aussie speeding fines and Know Your Rights, so he could teach people about their freedoms, how the systems work, and how to challenge injustices. He's also known for his weekly radio broadcasts, live events, and resources aimed at empowering listeners with practical strategies to understand and exercise their rights. So let's dive into Mike's journey, his mission, and what he is up to. Welcome, Mike. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks very much, Helen. Much appreciated.
Yeah. Did you like your intro?
Oh, beautiful. Couldn't have said it better myself.
And did you like that bit about sitting around a table somewhere in Burwood?
Yes, yeah. A long time ago that was.
That like 30 years ago or something?
Oh, not quite. It's probably 15, I'd say.
Oh, really?
It was, maybe 20. Yeah, maybe 20.
All right. Sorry for
yeah,
stacking 10 years on there for you.
Yeah, I know. I'm old enough. Don't need to add any on.
So tell me about that man. Tell me about Mike 20 years ago.
Wow. I was just finished the contract with the Victoria Police. So I ran a company that did all the transcript work for Victoria Police. So we typed up all the suspect interview tapes, and we'd done that for 13 years and never missed a beat, never got anything wrong, always, did things on budget, on time, unlike pretty much all the Victorian contractors nowadays. And all of a sudden, they said, no, we're not renewing your contract. And they did an under the table deal with a bankrupt Queensland company to provide these transcripts so they could sew everything all up with the one company all the way through the court system. And I thought, okay, that doesn't sound quite right. Why would they do that? And then we sort of started looking into things and then found, more and more and more didn't sort of, add up.
Uh-huh.
And, just started questioning, just started, researching, and just uncovered a whole lot of things and just went, wow, okay. Met some really interesting people along the way, some of the founders that originally helped create Aussie speeding fines, the guys back at, CLRG that then became CLRA down in Burwood. Just a bunch of different people that had all these little bits of information.
Sorry, for everybody that's listening, the abbreviations, what did they stand for?
Oh, ASF, Aussie speeding fines, sorry.
Yes.
And CLRG I think it was the Common Law Resource Group that then became the Common Law Resource Association.
Okay, so you personally smelled a rat with something that was happening with your business and your connection with the Victorian Police, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that then led you to starting to research and investigate what was going on, yeah?
Yep,
and
absolutely.
That, these groups started to form. Is that how it happened?
Well, I think some of the smaller groups were already there, and I just sort of got onto them through research and connected with some people. But they were all very, very small, very sort of splintered groups, yes. 20 people here, 50 people there, 40 people there. And I went, all right, look, these guys have so much incredible information. We need to find a way to bring that all together. So I started with some of the original founders of Aussie speeding fines and just said, look, you guys need to put this together in a cohesive way. And,
Yep.
they were older guys and, weren't very sort of tech savvy. So I helped them create, the website, and we, put together the book and all those sorts of things. And, that went out, and, I stupidly put my hand up to do some TV interviews with them, and, the good old
Well,
media.
I think you've always been kind of pulled into being the front man, haven't you?
Yeah, yeah, a little bit, a little
Because
bit.
you're
So
pretty
that
good at it. I mean, I have to say, you kind of come across really natural, right? And
thanks.
people can connect with you in your language and your presentation. So
Yeah.
what were these other groups finding out?
Well, so I mean, some of the guys who started Aussie speeding fines looked into things like the testing of the devices, found out that they weren't being properly tested, they didn't
This
meet.
is the speed guns and
This is, speed cameras,
right.
mobile cameras, laser and radar devices.
Yep.
That they weren't properly tested, they weren't properly calibrated. None of them had been certified under Section 10 of the National Measurement Act. Then they started looking even further into the actual, so-called laws themselves. And you take something like the Road Rules Victoria publication, which is, all about speed limits and all those sort of things. And it says, the contents of this document are to be adopted as law in Victoria. And you go, well, hang on a minute, why would you say adopted as law? That clearly means that they're not law. Otherwise, it would just say this is the law in Victoria. And you
Oh,
started to look at some of the nuances and the actual wording of things, going, hang on a minute, this
yep.
doesn't sort of add up.
Yeah.
And so, yes, it was just fascinating what they'd uncovered. And then, I met Daryl through CLRG, Daryl O'Brien, and he'd done a lot of research into the Commonwealth Constitution and what, was allowed and wasn't allowed, under that being, the highest, law in this land anyway. And
Can
so,
I,
yes, it
can
just sort
I,
of,
can I make a point there? I want to
yeah,
make a point there for people out there, right? Our thinking, our thoughts create reality. Our energy
absolutely.
creates reality, whether people understand how that happens or not. So, as soon as you start questioning things, you connect with these smaller groups that have all been kind of invisible, all been investigating and doing things, but your energy connects with their energy. They need
Yeah.
a way to take that energy out and expose it and get it out to the people, and you become that catalyst. And then as you do that, you connect with Daryl O'Brien, who's a guy who's doing it in another arena.
Yeah.
I want people to realize as soon as you start wanting change and wanting to understand things,
Hmm.
you start naturally connecting with people, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, even the Bible tells us, what you seek, you will find. So
Yeah,
it's, what you focus on is what you draw yourself to, and,
correct.
and draw to you as well. So yeah, absolutely.
I want people to know that you're not the only one around with that power, right?
No,
It's
yeah, no, no, everyone, absolutely.
I'm
Yeah.
just I'm just making a joke out of it now, but
Yeah.
I want people to realize that what you were doing, they can do in their own lives as
Oh,
well.
absolutely.
Okay, you connect with Daryl O'Brien, and then what happens?
So I said to him, I said, listen, the information, everything that you've got, and the research that you've done is mind blowing. I said, but you can't be sitting here presenting it to sort of 40, 50 people.
Right.
We need to get this out to the masses.
Yep.
So I started the Know Your Rights group as with the vision of it being sort of like an umbrella group that all these other little groups could, come underneath and feed into, and all that sort of stuff. And so we sort of connected with a few other groups along the way. And again, some of the problem is, one of the biggest challenges in this space is ego. Everybody's sort of got a bit of they genuinely want to help people, which is fantastic, but they've got an ego that it can only be done their way. And sort of that's it. And so a lot of the smaller groups said, no, 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 we just want to do our own thing. And so I said, all right, that's fair enough. And
Yep.
CLRG was one of those groups. And I said to Daryl, well, look, do you want to stay with them or you want to come with me? And I showed him what we'd done with Aussie speeding fines and those guys. He said, no, 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 let's get this out there to the masses. So yeah, so we started the Know Your Rights group. Then we started doing our weekly radio shows, and so they started becoming popular. Then we wrote another book, and we created a whole website. Then we started doing live, in-person events, and so we were, presenting to 100, nearly up to 200 people at some point, in all the major cities around Australia.
Yep.
And so that, we're getting the, I mean, you're standing there presenting for, a day, an hour, whatever it is, but it's just leverage. You're getting across to more people at the same
Traction,
time.
getting some traction.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah. So then, of course, social media became a thing, with Facebook and Instagram and things like that. So I think at last look, there was somewhere around, 145,000 followers on Facebook, and then we've got followers on Instagram, and now we've got a YouTube channel. And so we've just opened up, our information to as many people as possible in as many different ways and formats, because some people like listening to the radio show, some people like watching, we do a live video every Thursday night on
Yes.
Facebook. Some people like watching YouTube videos. So we, and one of the new things that we started last year, which was really, really popular, was actually webinars. So we now we break topics down into a full day, and we just do them online, just like this. And it's just so much more convenient. People don't have to take a whole weekend off to come and attend our live events. We don't have to pay for all the costs of traveling and everything. So it's a win-win, and they were really good. So we're doing those again this year, which has again been really popular. So yeah, it's just about finding new ways to get the information out there to people who want to learn about their rights.
Yeah, I hear you, because everybody learns differently, don't they?
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
and you've got given them all sorts of different ways to do that.
Yep.
Um, and I hear what you're saying about ego. I call it old thinking as well, because we've been programmed, haven't we, in a lot
Oh,
of ways. We've been programmed how to think about our banking, how to think about our political system, our
mhm.
judicial system. And what you're doing is breaking free from those limitations, really.
Mhm.
And ego, unfortunately, comes right to the front and center, trying to defend itself, going, hang on a minute, I'm
Yeah.
right. I know
Yeah.
what I'm thinking here,
Yeah.
right? And, if you're going to be the catalyst for change,
Mhm.
then you have to align yourself with people that, I suppose, in your core group have all the same sort of values
Hmm.
and vision. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're not here to do personal development for people, right?
No, that's another thing that I do, but yeah, not
Yes.
not in this realm. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, because what you're talking about is that, people's stuff comes up and they need to address that, but you can't do everything for
Yeah.
everyone. Yeah.
Correct.
And what I also hear is the foundation that you're building, because I've talked to a lot of different people running different groups. I've personally been and investigated them all. I was doing like you were doing with research and stuff, figuring out how people were trying to change the world for
Mm.
the better. But foundation is something that was lacking with a
Mm.
lot of different groups. And as soon as they got to 1 or 2 years in, the wobbling started to happen because they didn't have good
Yes.
foundation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that
And
important?
that's so important. Absolutely. Obviously, we've got a little bit more recently. We brought Darren Dixon on board from Constitution Watch, and just the three of us, myself, Darren, and Daryl, all similar thinking, very different ways that we've different topics and things that we've researched,
Yes.
different ways that we present,
Yeah.
but we're all on the same path, and that's really what works, because Daryl's a little bit more slower, softer, more methodical. I'm a bit more sort of high energy out there. Darren's sort of a little bit more balanced in the middle,
Yeah.
and different people, as you said before, learn in different ways. Some people prefer my style, some people prefer Darren's style, some people prefer Daryl's style. So it's good that we're all on the same path. We're all presenting essentially the same information, just with our personal takes, but in our different styles. So it appeals again to that wider range of people. And I mean, Aussie Speeding Fines is now in their 19th, 18th or 19th year.
Right.
The Know Your Rights group's been going over 11 years now. I think we're coming up to our 12th year in April.
Yeah.
So I mean that's a long time in
That
this.
says a lot. That says a lot.
Yeah. You'd know, very well. There's people who, burst onto the scene very quickly, and as you say, 2 or 3 years later, they disappear, and you don't hear about them again. Someone new will pop up, and they'll be the flavour of the month for a little while. But we've just kept plodding along, bit by bit, year by year, in the background, just plugging away, doing our thing in our way, and over time, it becomes, I guess, a little bit of a brand that people know. Oh, if I want to know my rights, I've got a legal thing. The Know Your Rights group, that's the place to go.
Yeah, I mean, people even know KYR,
Yes, yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like, you know that you're getting into the psyche and you're
yeah,
doing it for great reasons, for
yeah,
great reasons. So
yeah.
tell me, why are you doing it? What do you want to achieve?
Look, at the end of the day, I've got two young boys, 10 and 12. My partner's got kids as well. They're a little bit older, and I want to leave. I know it sounds like a bit of a cliche and all the rest of it, but it's a cliche for a reason. That
Yes,
I want to leave the world a better place for
yes,
them to grow up in, so they don't have to have all the fights and the struggles and the stresses and everything that I've had to go through.
mm.
I want to leave it a better, easier life for them,
So
and that's really what it comes down to.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think that resonates to the heart of everybody out there that we do want to make this a better world.
Mm,
It's just that people, they sort of try to tune into people like you and different groups, trying to figure out what does that look like? How
mm,
am I going to do that? Because when I did some public speaking on the topic, that was back in 2022, I found that everybody knew they wanted a better world, but they hadn't thought past a piece of land with chooks and veggies.
yeah, yeah,
They didn't know, well, how were we going to do it? What happens next?
yes.
So, people like you guys are helping them with some options and
Yeah.
getting them to rethink and have new ideas. Is that right?
Absolutely. I mean, look, thinking is the number one thing.
Yes.
And I, even myself, as I've gotten older and hopefully matured a little bit, I know in the early days I was very gung ho and this is this and that is that and bang 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 bang. Whereas now I provide all that as well, but I'm a lot more about questioning. Oh, have you thought about this? Have you looked at this? Have you researched that? Oh, do you realize that this and this, when you put them together, don't quite add up? Does that seem strange to you? And I'm very much about asking people questions wherever possible now to really get them thinking, because it's that change in thinking. One of our big mottos is the old, give a man a fish, you feed him for a day, but teach him how to fish and you feed him for life. And
Yes.
that really comes from that thinking process. If we can just get people thinking first and foremost, it opens up a whole new world, because as I said before, what you focus on is what you see, it's what you get. So if
Yes.
you start thinking about things differently, you're going to start seeing things differently. You're going to start seeing different solutions. And then that brings us to the next step, is for those who are, awake and who are starting to think now, we want to provide them with those real world practical solutions. Yeah, absolutely. There's the end goal of the big farm with the chickens and solar panels and complete self-sufficiency.
Yep.
Sure, no problem. That's a great goal to have, and for some people it might be something they can do in 6 months. Some might not be able to do it for 6 years, and some might not be able to do it at all. So there's lots of other very simple little steps that people can take on a day-to-day basis. And that's really what we're all about. Showing, explaining to people, not only why you should challenge every fine, but how, simple it is to do when you have the right knowledge, how to, challenge, over the top, rates and land tax bills, how to, question energy retailers on bills, all those sort of, practical day-to-day things,
Yeah. Yeah.
what people should be doing at election time.
Yes.
We don't obviously tell people how to vote, but we get them thinking about different things that, of course, the mainstream media is not telling people.
Well, it's like, why are you paying fines?
Yeah,
Why are they created?
yeah,
And why are you voting?
yeah,
It's getting people to start thinking about why you're automatically doing a lot of the things that you're
yeah,
doing in your
yeah,
life,
yeah,
right? That's
yeah,
where we all start. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it's just about thinking about things differently. And once you start down that path, as I say to people, doesn't matter where you enter the rabbit hole, as long as you enter, because once you go down, you're not going to come back out,
Yeah.
the same way again. And again, I think that's one of the reasons that Know Your Rights group has been so popular and has been around for so long, is because we don't just focus on one thing.
Mm.
We have things on fines, we have things on the banking system, we have things on elections, we have things on local government rates, we have things on the straw man concept. We talk about Unidroid. We deal with the Constitution Commission reports. There's so much. So people will often come to us because of one particular problem. They got a huge rates bill, or they got a fine, and they'll come to us and look for that bit of information, and then they'll see on the website and go, oh, you guys do this as well. Oh, you do that too. And then they start looking and researching and thinking, and that's really what it's all about.
That's the rabbit hole.
That's it. 100%.
So can we change? Can we change? Like, there's a couple of different ways of thinking
Absolutely.
about this. Can we change the system, or should we be creating something new?
Well, the answer is yes, we can change the system. We
Actually,
absolutely can.
you've got. I know you still go into court and you still do all those sorts of things. So has it
Absolutely.
changed? Has it changed over the last 15 years?
Absolutely. I mean, okay, I'll give you a perfect example. And I was chatting to someone about this just the other day.
Yep.
So here in Victoria, the whole fines system used to be run by an organisation called Civic Compliance Victoria.
Yeah.
Now, they tendered for the contract to run the system of fines, and they were awarded that contract. So then Aussie speeding fines came out, and there was, hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of people using that Aussie speeding fines process to challenge their fines.
Right.
Now, part of the contract, or the part of the terms and conditions of the contract with Civic Compliance, was that whenever anyone wrote to them, sent them something in writing, they had to write back and respond.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened, because all of a sudden they were, an influx of tens of thousands of people writing in and challenging their fines, they no longer had the staff.
Yeah.
Okay, pardon me, to handle that response. So they went back to the Victorian government and said, listen, this is what's happened. We've been overwhelmed with all these letters and everything. We can't respond as per our contract. So we're, petitioning you for more funds so we can bring on more staff and so that we can fulfill the contract. And the Victorian government said, well, no, too bad, so sad. You tendered. That's the terms and conditions. If you can't do it, then, bad luck. And they closed and they shut down. And now the whole system's been taken over by Fines Victoria.
So people really need to take note of that.
100%. Absolutely.
People clog the system up.
Oh, yeah. Again, as we tell people, we do whole full day events just on fines.
Mm.
And at the end of the day, we say, you know what? If you listen to nothing else that we've said for the whole day, didn't take on board any of the specific arguments, strategies, techniques, anything we said, if you just took on board one thing, the minute you got the fine in, you turn it over, you fill it out, say, I want this heard in court. Okay. If everybody just did that for 1 month, the system would come to a grinding halt. They can't handle that many cases.
Yep.
They simply can't do it.
Yep.
Yeah. Another thing that people don't realize is, and again, there's statistics out there, the media have reported on it. Okay. Give or take 50% of people who challenge their fines win. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
50%, half the people. Mm-hmm. Now, the problem is, there's only about 1 or 2% of people that actually bother to challenge their fines. Mm-hmm. Imagine if everybody started doing it.
Yes.
And that's how we change the system.
Well, how do we take away, though, what stops people from doing that is the programming of authority. I mean, everybody around knows that if you see flashing blue and red lights, something happens in your gut straight away, Yeah. So the first thing that kind of deters people is having to argue or confront authority.
It's fear. It's just fear. I was talking to a person just recently, and he's a very, very quiet. I don't know him through Know Your Rights group. I know him through, the friend of a friend, and really nice bloke, but very quiet. Very, doesn't challenge authority in any way. And he was trying to get up to Eildon recently to check on his houseboat.
Oh,
and the bushfires. And so there was a police, like a blockade or something there. And he's spoken to me. I said, well, look, just tell them that, you're going up there to check on your houseboat, because it's it's like a second home. You just, because with the fires and the wind, you're just checking that it's okay. Yep. So anyway, and I'd explained a bit of other stuff to him. I said, at the end of the day, it's like COVID. The police officers themselves don't actually have the authority. The minister has the authority to stop, but that has to be delegated, and that can only be delegated with an actual instrument. And I guarantee you they don't have the instruments. So
Mhm.
anyway, I'd explained all this to him. Anyway, he went up and he rang me back that night and said, "Oh my God, you're not going to believe it." I explained I was going to go to the houseboat and everything, and he said, "Look, I find it fascinating that everybody just wants to check on their houseboats on a Friday afternoon. That seems very convenient." And he's like, "Well, that's when I've got off work. I finished work. I'm coming to check." And he said, "No,
Yes.
we're not going to let you through." And he said, "No, I don't know where it came from." He said, "But just somehow I just blurted out, 'You can't actually legally stop me though, can you?'" And the officer, it looked at him and said, "No, you're right. On your way, sir. Have a nice night." you know, and it
Okay.
was just that. And he goes, "Oh my God," he goes, I was freaking out when I said it, thinking, "Oh my God, what have I done?" He said, "But then it was so empowering when I did it, and I got through." And that's that feeling, that confidence.
Mm.
We can sit here all day and explain strategies and techniques to people, and they'll get them.
Yep.
But explaining that empowerment, that personal empowerment, that confidence that comes with standing up for your rights is something that you just can't understand until you've actually done it.
And that's
That's
how you
the
flick off that switch of fear.
correct. And it is. It's like because once you've done it once, it's like that rush, that feeling you want to do it again.
Right.
Um,
Well, and I hope it's confidence for people too, that
oh,
you
absolutely.
can't sit on the outside of a problem
No,
and think about it and think about it and talk about it and talk about it. You have to take some sort of action.
got to
Yeah.
take action.
And that
Absolutely.
little bit of action for him was making a comment, which was just
Yep.
a query,
Yep.
and boom, on went the light bulb.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And again, he wasn't being mean. He wasn't being a smart ass. He was just
No.
like, but hang on a minute, you can't actually legally stop us, can you? And he was like, no, I can't.
Yeah.
And this is the thing. And again, once you understand, again, I worked, with Victoria Police for 13 years, so I understand. I spoke to many, many police officers over the years, so I know how they're trained. And when you talk to these people, you understand they are trained to be in control from the minute. Yeah, and how do they control you? By asking questions.
Yes.
So, when I get pulled over, I jump out of the car. Hey, officer, how's it going? Any issues, something I can help you with? And all of a sudden they're like, oh, this guy's not buying into the thing. He's as confident as we are. And, I'm just totally friendly, normal guy hanging out there. Again, yeah, they got the fancy uniform and the hat and the gun on their belt, but they're just guys and girls like you and I. They're
Yes.
no different. They're
Yeah.
just, they're just people. They just happen to be playing a particular role for that particular time on that particular day. But when you
Yeah.
understand that they're humans, they've got worries and concerns and fears and issues just like we do.
Mhm.
They're no different. And
And
when you treat them
agendas
like that,
yeah, and agendas and
agendas, of course, yeah,
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 yeah, it's their training, it's what they've been trained to do,
correct,
but we're allowed to question that, and
yeah.
as you say, respectfully. There's no need for everybody to start getting angry and crazy out
No,
there.
no, definitely not.
That doesn't
And
do.
look, and some people do, they take it too far, and it's just like, whoa, just calm down. And this is the thing. Once you actually know your rights, once you've done the research, once you've, got all the information up in there and you know it inside out, upside down, back to front, and you have that confidence, there's no need for any of that bravado or anything because you know you can handle yourself. Again, for my thing, like I was, not that it looks like it now, but I used to be this skinny, weedy little runt at school, and I got picked on all the time.
Uh,
And eventually, I decided, right, I'm going to do something about this. So I went and I started learning, martial arts. And for the first, 6 months, of course, that made things even worse because now everyone teased me as the karate kid and all that
okay,
stuff.
yep.
But eventually, I got to the point where I'd trained up to a level enough that I knew how to, look after myself and protect myself. And there was, and people, I've spoken to years later, they go, oh, there was just something about you. There was a shift that it was just like, yeah, we're not going to mess with this guy anymore. Not that I was, big muscles or anything like that. I was still the same guy, but I knew what I knew. I knew how to look after myself if anything happened. And, people can sense that. They pick on the weak.
Absolutely,
And,
absolutely.
and so when you've got that confidence that you know your rights, it's like, yeah, right, we're not going to mess with this guy.
Well, there's that word knowing, and knowing comes from experience, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
That's
Yep.
when you say, I know how to ride a bike, I know how to do this. Yeah.
Yep. Exactly.
And something that I've always realized is that the more clarity you have within you, the more clarity you have outside of you.
Oh,
So
exactly.
if I had people that were saying to me, I've got a fine and I'm going to court, am I going to be okay? And I go, well, tell me. can you handle it? And as soon as they'd wobble, I'd go, you're not ready. You're not
Mm.
ready. And I mean, even if people, like you're saying, they learn and they learn and they start putting it into practice, even if you have to just write up what you would like to say on a piece of paper and have it in the car with you, there's nothing that stops you if you get pulled over or if you have to go to the police station, or you can read it off a piece of paper too.
Oh, look, absolutely. And again, I like to reframe those things for people. I find it's one of the most powerful things because, again, if you get pulled over and you don't say, the right thing in the right way, what's the worst that's going to happen? You're just going to get the ticket anyway. So you're not going to lose anything by trying,
Yep.
but you might get a win. It's the same thing by going to court. Don't sit there going, oh my God, I have to win this at all costs, it's life and death. People get to work themselves into a panic. Just
Yep.
go, you know what? 5 years ago, a year ago, whatever, I would have just paid this fine anyway. So I'm not losing anything. Even if I lose the case, I'm
Yep.
not losing anything. I'm only doing what I would have done previously anyway. But you know what? I might actually get a win and I might learn a few things along the way. I might help clog up the court system and I might inspire, others to do the same thing as well. And it's when you reframe it like that way, it just takes away all that fear and that panic. It's just like, I go into court now, I'm having fun. I will literally go in there and my goal isn't to win my case. My goal is to make the magistrate laugh. Okay?
Yep.
Because when you make a magistrate laugh, straight away you're elevated like 10 levels above all the other Muppets out there that are just got no idea what the hell they're doing. And they're like, okay, oh, a breath of fresh air in my courtroom today, and that's how they look at it. And you
Well,
have fun and stuff.
it's relating man to man, woman to woman, whatever.
Yeah,
It's people relating to each other
correct.
instead of being caught up in this serious system. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And that's it. People panic. And it's just like, again, magistrates, judges, whatever, they're all men and women like us. They've all got a mortgage. They've all got rat bag kids. They've all got all the same stresses and issues that we do. But
Problem.
people have this perception, oh, they're sitting up there in this big chair or they've got the big fancy wig on or whatever it is. And
Yes.
they panic. It's just that they're human. They're all
Yeah.
human. They're
Yeah,
all human.
that's a great way to look at it, is reframing it and
Yeah,
try to see that this is, you're having an experience,
correct.
your first experience, so give it a go. Just give
Correct.
it a go. I found that starting to talk to some police officers, like if I'd go into a shop and there was a motorcycle nearby or a car, a police car, I'd go up and have a chat and
Yeah.
I had one of those common law cards. I was always just investigating like how all these different systems were working. And I
Yeah.
wanted to see, I don't know, I wanted to have diplomatic immunity. That was the thing on the top of my mind. It's like, how do I operate my own jurisdiction? That was the game I've been playing for a long time, right? And how do I negotiate with that jurisdiction outside there as well? So I would go up to them with my common law card and I'd have a conversation and go, hey guys, what do you think about this? Like, if you pulled me up, right, what would you say? And I just got in their heads.
Yep.
I wanted
Yep.
to understand their thinking
Yep.
and to get to hang around and rub shoulders with them so that I was then getting rid of that authority fear
Correct.
that was
Yep.
there. And I highly recommend that have a go, guys. Have a
Yeah.
go doing things like that. Yeah.
And again, if you're a first, and one of the other best bits of advice I can give people, if you're a first timer going to court for whatever reason, go in before your case and just spend a day, half a day, even a couple of hours, and
Great
just go
idea.
and sit in on a court so you can see, because people who've never been to court have this massive fear of
Yeah.
court, like it's this big scary thing,
Yeah.
but almost 100% of the time, people come back to me, via emails or whatever, go, I went to court and oh my God, it was nowhere near as scary as I thought. It was a bit daunting. It was a bit this, a bit that, I felt uncomfortable, but it wasn't anywhere near as bad as what I was making it out to be.
Yeah.
And again, the example I give people when I very first started my martial arts, journey as a, little old white belt, I was so scared of being hit and, do everything I could to not get hit. And then eventually you get hit and you go, okay, well, that hurt. And then you get hit again, then you get hit again. And once it's happened 4 or 5 times, you go, well, it's not any great fear. I mean, it's not very pleasant,
Yeah.
obviously, but it's not, I'm going to die or anything. It just, okay, it hurts a little bit. And then it removes that fear and you can just sort of get on with it then.
And fear is very polarizing, isn't it?
Oh, yeah,
I find that fear narrows your whole trajectory and you
yeah,
can only see what's going wrong.
yeah.
I
Yeah,
suppose, more than what's going right.
yeah.
It polarizes everything, and you don't get to see the big picture of what's going on.
Yep, absolutely.
Great
And that's
advice.
why I gave that 50, 50%. It's not made up, it's genuine. You can go out, you can do the research. 50% of people who challenge their finds win. So you've got just as much chance of, it going right as you have of it going wrong. So just keep that in mind. Glass half full, glass half empty. This is sort of the same.
Yes. And people out there are not hanging around with other people that are confirming for them. 50% are doing it. 50%. It's not on the mainstream media. It's not out there in your paradigm
Yeah.
until you start investigating and researching for yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. And this was that, that concept that you're speaking about there was what literally put us on the map during COVID. Because of course the media were trying to make out that anyone that didn't buy into the narrative was, on their own, completely by themselves. They were the
Get in the water. Yeah.
only people that were thinking this way. Anyone that didn't get the jab was going to be a leper, and no one would ever accept them. And that's, during COVID, I was actually doing two video updates a week.
Right.
And some of those videos were getting viewed, 80, 90, 100,000 times,
Yeah.
because people were just desperately trying to, get that message and get that reassurance that they were not the only ones. And I kept explaining to people, I talk to people all the time, and there are way more people standing their ground than you could possibly imagine. And now, of course, after time, the truth's coming out and things like that. So, yeah,
Awareness is growing. It is
yeah,
growing
oh yeah,
exponentially. Yes.
absolutely,
And,
yeah,
and going back to what you said earlier on about how you used to kind of just, like shove information at
yeah,
people and do it that way, because I used to be that. I can relate to that.
yeah,
As we mature and as we learn, I listen to some of your reports and things, and you do have a very balanced way about you of presenting, so that it does become an idea for people to, take on board and explore for
yeah,
themselves. You're not telling them what's right and what's wrong. You're just going, think about this.
yeah, yeah. The example I give people is, try it on like a coat. Try
Right.
the coat on. If the coat fits, great. Walk away and enjoy the coat. If it doesn't, put it down and try on another coat, or try on a shirt or whatever. And
Yeah.
that's it. It's just, as I say to people, just try ideas on. It's like with kids. How do you teach kids? You expose them to as many different things. Maths, English, science, soccer, tennis, swimming, basketball. Let them try everything and figure out what they particularly like. Some
Mm.
kids will be more sporty, some kids will be more artistic, whatever it is. So great. Give them as many opportunities as you can. Let them find, their way in the world and what they like. And it's the same thing. We show people lots and lots of different strategies, share lots and lots of information. And, as I say to people, don't blindly believe anything I say ever. But if something I say, captures your attention, if it piques your interest, scribble it down and then go away and do the research. Because I always show people where we find the information so they can go and, confirm, verify, and validate it for themselves.
Yep.
And that's where the power comes. Because, if I sit there in an event and I just stand there and I just speak at people all day, it's still just me sharing my information.
Yes.
Whereas if you take on board and scribble down lots of notes and go off and research it yourself, then it becomes your information because you've actually studied it and researched it and you know it. And that's where it becomes really, really powerful.
Well, that's where we're rewiring our thinking, aren't we? Those neural pathways.
Yep.
And to let everybody know out there, yeah, it gives you headaches. It gives you headaches when you're trying to change your thinking.
Yeah.
It does your head in.
Yeah.
And it's those kind of terms are for a reason. It's
Yeah.
because you are rewiring yourself.
Yep.
We can't keep thinking the way that we've always done, can
No.
we?
Oh, you keep thinking the way you've always done, you'll keep getting what you always got.
Yes.
And how's that working out for you? If
Yes.
it's working great, keep doing it.
Yep.
But if not, then you need to do something different and you need to think differently in order to do things differently.
Yes, and that's what groups like yours are all about. And people can access you in all sorts of different ways to find that information out. But you're absolutely right. You can go around, you can listen to all sorts of different groups, but you've got to internalize it somehow.
Yep.
So where are we headed?
Well, again, as I say to people in our events, where we're headed is up to everybody out there. The elite like to think they're in control and it's up to them, but that's absolutely not the case. I mean, look at the voice to Parliament. they were absolutely certain they were going to get that across the line,
Yes.
and they didn't.
Yeah.
Look at the director ID. Again, they were certain they were going to get all the directors in Australia to sign up for director ID, and that would be the test case, and then they'd be pushing for digital ID. Well, they failed at the first hurdle because I think still as of today, there's something like 700,000 directors that have said, no, no,
Yeah.
we're not signing up for director ID. And no one's been prosecuted, no one's been fined because they know that. How can they fine 700,000 people? They can't.
Mm.
So, absolutely, if we work together collectively, we can take charge. We can take control. We can define the course
Mhm.
and the way things go. But again, it requires everybody to take action, and not everybody has to take exactly the same action, but everybody has to say, all right, what difference do I want to make in the world? What changes do I want to see? And they need to take regular congruent action towards making that happen. Whether that means, listening to our shows, watching our videos, challenging some fines, writing letters to their members of parliament, writing in FOI requests, sending in my will letters, but take some action on a regular basis towards achieving the end result that you want to achieve.
Well, it's like two bubbles of energy, isn't it? And we've got the elite and the old jurisdiction as
Yep.
one bubble. And that's a pretty big, pretty ominous bubble, right?
Yep.
Because everybody's energy has been contributing to that for
Mm-hmm.
decades and centuries, right?
Yep. Yep.
And we've got a new bubble that's been created, and it's probably a couple of generations. I don't
Mm.
know. Let's just put that sort of label on it.
Yep. Yep.
And it's building. It's
Yeah.
building. And what you're saying is people have to choose, right? Where they're contributing their energy and their attention to now, and always doing it respectfully, of course.
Mm.
But it doesn't mean, that you start contesting everything and you have to go to court to make changes and you have to write letters to make changes. You can make changes in your own life, can't you?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And
And the first thing is just your thinking and your questioning. When you see something on the mainstream media, you go, does that actually make sense?
yeah.
When you get a letter in the mail, is that actually right? When you see a newspaper article, you just start by questioning and thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And once you've done that questioning and thinking, you're probably going to, go down a slightly different path. And then you go, okay, well, I might actually make this change in my life or implement that or take that on board or share this story with others or whatever it is, these little steps that you can take in your
Yes.
day-to-day lives
Yes.
to make your life better, and then to share that message around to others and to inspire and empower them to take similar steps as well.
Yeah, well, I know that I changed the contents of my laundry cupboard. I took out all the chemicals and all those sorts of things, and that was
Yep.
change. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I made changes in terms of I don't have debt. I
Yep.
don't have debt. It
Yep.
took years to do it, but my goal was I don't want to be plugged up in that system. I don't want to be part of owing and all that sort of stuff. So I
Yep.
started to clean that up as well.
Yep.
There's other steps. I haven't had a TV for 10 years,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Personal choices, but it's just
Absolutely.
challenging yourself to be a part of the new jurisdiction,
Mm-hmm.
new bubble, and not contributing as much to the old.
Yep.
What
Yep.
what sort of changes? I know that what you're doing there for everybody else, but what have you changed as well, Mike, if you wouldn't mind, for yourself as well?
Oh, look, absolutely. I mean, mainstream media, I don't watch any, TV or anything like that. The only, I'll jump on a, on a Tuesday or a Thursday online to some of the mainstream media online articles just to simply see,
What
you know,
you're going to report on?
what they're trying to spout so that we can give people the counter to that. But as far as looking at it all day every day or anything like that, I don't buy into it at all.
Yep.
A lot more in the way of self-sufficiency, making sure that we've got stores of things, making sure that we've got cash tucked away, making sure that there's gold and silver available, all those sorts of things. And really just talking to people. That's really my big thing, is just talking to people and asking them questions.
And so you're doing the stores of things so that you're not 100% reliant on
Yeah.
what's going out there in that old system. Yeah.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, absolutely. So, and it's fascinating when you actually speak to people. I mean, I find it amazing, for example, that Labor got in with an overwhelming majority, but yet you talk to anybody and everybody in all walks of life, not a single person admits to voting Labor. So how did this happen?
How did that
You know,
happen?
something doesn't quite add up there. But you talk to people, and of course, when you start talking to people about a particular topic, even if they did do something that's against that topic, they're not going to talk about it. They're going to go down your path, and it's just those conversations if you can leave someone thinking.
Yeah,
If you can leave someone, just looking at things a little bit differently than they did before you came along or before you interacted with them,
yeah.
then that has that ripple effect, the butterfly effect.
Yes.
Um,
Yes, absolutely. Because for a generation out there, say our 30 somethings and maybe even our 40 somethings who are doing Sunday brunches and entertaining themselves a lot, they're going to create more of Sunday brunches and entertaining
hmm,
themselves a lot while the rest of the world is moving on in some way.
yeah,
And, we want everyone to start paying attention
yep,
to what
yep,
they're doing.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's the biggest thing. Just pay attention. I mean, again, I've got a certificate in clinical hypnotherapy, and everybody, thinks that's, watch the watch, and I'll make you bark like a chicken or something. That's not what it's about. Well, hypnotherapy is actually breaking you out of your day-to-day trance. That's what it's all about. Most people jump in the car and drive to work and have no idea how many, lights they stopped at, how many blue cars were next to them or anything, because they're just in the zone, and they're just, and what
Unconscious.
hypnotherapy is about focusing on everything that you do consciously,
Yeah.
and asking yourself, well, why am I going this way? Is there a better way that I could go? Is there a faster way I could go? Is there shortcuts that I could take? Why am I voting in this way? Why am I, responding to letters in this way? Why am I, why am I doing the things that I'm doing in the way that I'm doing them? Now, you're going to come up with one of two answers. Okay. Oh, I'm doing it because it's the best way. Perfect. Brilliant. Great answer. Because then you can keep doing it knowing that it's the best way. Or the other answer is, oh, well, I don't really know. I'm not really sure. Well, great. Now that you're not really sure and you don't really know, then you can ask more questions and find out and ascertain whether it is, in fact, the best way. And if it's not, then, of course, you can make the changes that you need to make sure that it is the best way. And
Yes.
it's a very simple process, but it just takes, as you say, just paying attention. You just got to be conscious to it.
Conscious or unconscious. I mean, that's great because I've studied along the lines of you as well. And what did you have to do? I know that to become conscious all the time, I had to start reminding myself, I had to keep asking myself questions during the day. Are you awake? Are you awake, Helen? Are you awake? Are you thinking about things? I had to keep checking in with myself, and then
Yep.
that had to become a habit.
Yep.
How did you do it? I mean, we've all been driving in the car and thought, how the hell did I get here? Right?
Yep. Yep.
So we're either unconscious, as you say, or we're conscious. So
Yep.
how did you do it? How did you become the master of your own mind, I suppose?
I guess it was literally just when you notice yourself, drifting off or sort of floating away, just bringing yourself back and just seeing it. And then sometimes if, if it's appropriate to be drifting off, if you're having a relaxing night at home or whatever it is, then you go, okay, yeah, I'm drifting off, but it's appropriate now.
Mm.
So I'm going to let that go. But if you're driving a car, well, it's probably not appropriate. So you
Yep.
bring yourself back, when
Yep.
you find yourself daydreaming or things like that.
Mm.
So yeah, it's just being aware,
Yeah.
just sort of trying to stop, on a regular basis. And even, to begin with, you set an alarm on your phone for every hour and
Okay.
just have the alarm go off and oh, okay. And that's just going to stop you, whatever's doing. What am I doing? Where am I? Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, I'm all good. And then another hour to go off and then next week it might be every 2 hours or 4 hours or what. And then you just do it like that. But
Yes.
that's a process that you can use just to bring yourself back,
Yeah.
through external. And then, of course, the more you do it, you'll just start to do it internally yourself automatically.
Because when we're conscious, we can then make good choices.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yes. This is alpha and beta kind of thinking you're talking about here.
Yeah.
And when we go into like alpha, we drop in brain frequency and we're more suggestible, aren't
Yeah.
we? Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's
And
why TV gets straight in. Yeah. Marketing gets straight in.
yeah. Yeah, and that's what you look at Facebook or Instagram. You see these people just scrolling, 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 and it's their whole thing. As I said, I will have I set aside an hour on a Tuesday before the radio show, an hour on a Thursday, and I will consciously get on to some of the social media channels again, just to see what's being spread around, what people are talking about, so
Yes.
that then I can address them on the shows. But I'm not just sitting there mindlessly all day, every day, scrolling through
That's
the.
another good point too, because people go unconscious. Well, then,
Yeah.
I mean, that's why people lose an hour or 2 hours
Oh,
and go, "What the hell have I been doing?"
yeah. Yeah.
It's being asleep at the wheel, isn't it?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And it's all done by design, because that's how these groups, make their money. They have ads, and they have little stories and pictures and videos and things that suck you in. And the more you're on their platform and their channel, the more ads you're seeing. And so then they can charge people to do ads, and that's how it all works. And again, once you actually understand how it all works, you look at it differently and go, oh yeah, I see what's going on there. Oh, I mentioned, I'd like to go on a holiday, to my wife yesterday, and all of a sudden, oh, there's all these things on my Facebook, cheap hotels, cheap cruises, cheap flights,
Yeah, to the
because
very same place you were talking
yeah,
about.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And it's all by design. And once you understand that, you see it for what it is. And again, then it takes away that power again.
I remember just myself when I challenged myself to take Facebook off my mobile phone. This was probably 5 or 6 years ago. I had to listen to what the mind was coming up with, trying to tell me not to do that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Even when I challenged myself to put my mobile phone somewhere away from the side of the bed at night, I put
Mm,
it in another room. The
yeah,
mind was challenging me then to say I'd miss a phone call, something would be wrong with my kids, there'd be an emergency. It's quite crazy how addicted we become
mm,
to these things.
yeah,
And when we're focusing on that, we're not focusing on our own lives.
yeah, absolutely.
We're
Absolutely.
creating somebody else's.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's I look at it, it shocks and concerns me, how many people watch, these ridiculous, train wreck TV shows.
Yep.
And they get so ingrained in these soap operas and what other people just like. How have you even got time if you are focused on and working on and designing your own life? How have you got any time to even think about or worry about or be concerned about what someone else is doing that you don't even know?
Mm.
I mean, okay, I can understand if you buy into your kid's life, or your brothers or sisters or mothers or fathers, because they're
Family,
related, but
friends.
you're investing time and energy into some TV show, following somebody, dancing with some nobody, cooking some rubbish no one's going to eat, renovating some box that you're not going to live in. I mean, who cares?
Yeah. And
It,
it's a good point, right? Because if they channeled all that energy into their own
oh,
lives, they could
yeah.
probably create the beautiful life that they do want for themselves.
I've said this to people, more times than I can count. If you put the same amount, I said, be honest, calculate how much time, effort, and energy you spend on watching TV and on social media. If you put the same amount of time, effort, and energy into creating a little side business, you could probably replace your full-time income inside of, 12 months.
Yes.
But people don't realize they're doing it. Oh, but I'm just sitting down having my dinner, watching this, and then I'll watch that, and then I'll go to bed. And you've just lost 4 hours.
Yeah.
It's half a working day. If
Yep.
you put 4 hours a day into building a business, some little side business, whatever it is, do you
Yep.
know how much money you could be making? Do you know how positively you could be impacting other people by providing new goods or services to them that, you know, and instead you're
Especially
wasting it all on TV and Facebook.
especially everybody listen up, especially if you're doing something that you love. I mean, just listen to Mike, right? I mean, whenever he talks about his life and the things that he's doing, you're like a fire hydrant, right? It's like, because you're just so passionate, and are you enjoying what you're doing?
Oh, absolutely. I love it. I love it because
Exactly.
you're making a difference. You're genuinely helping people.
Mhm.
And how can you not love that? And hopefully, fingers crossed, making a positive impact, on a more global scale along the way as well.
Yes, absolutely. So, I mean, people need to find what it is that they love for starters, right? And then just start to give it some focus, because then those 3 or 4 hours a day that you're talking about, they're not a chore.
No,
Sure, if there's something you enjoy.
absolutely. Do what you love and the money will follow, as the old saying goes.
Yes,
Just find
yes.
something that you're passionate about, even if it's, a hobby. But you're not going to change lives and make money watching, soap operas.
No, you're
So
making money for somebody else,
else,
right?
correct. Because they go, oh, well, there's a million people watching this. We'll make the next season or whatever it is.
Yes.
And so if you're not living your life, you're living someone else's.
So watch
Um,
your thinking, firstly. Yeah, everybody watch your thinking. Keep conscious,
yeah,
right? And watch where your attention's going and what you're actually addicted to during the
yeah,
day. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Whether it's
Absolutely.
social media, whether it's the latest Netflix, whether it's like, people don't even probably stop and look at how much time they are spending on things that aren't productive.
No, oh, look, I do. Yeah, again, we're sort of moving into my success coaching business a little bit, but
Yep.
that's one of the things that I get people to do is to, for a week, is to sit there with a pen and paper,
Yep.
and the two exercises I get them to go through is to note down every, yeah, in blocks of 30 minutes what they're spending their time on. And the other thing is what they're putting into their body. So what they're
Good
eating, what they're
exercise.
drinking, and actually keep a record of it, because most people are quite shocked when they actually realize, oh, I had that chocolate biscuit and I had that lolly and I had that can of Coke, and and you add it up over a week and go, oh my God, I can't believe I actually ate and drank,
I'm a sugar addict. Oh my
yeah,
God.
yeah, correct, exactly. And I'm a social media addict, and I'm a TV addict. And again, that's fine. As I say to people, don't people go, oh, but what if I find all this out? Well, if you find all that out, then great, because you know what? Now you realize it. Now you're consciously aware of it, and now you can do something to change it, because you can't fix a problem that you're not aware of.
Correct.
We all know we should do more exercise and eat better, and but that one day that the genes don't do up, you go,
Yeah.
all right, I get it, I got to do something now. Enough's enough. All right, I'm onto it. But you've got to have that realization, that aha moment. And
Yeah.
so, that aha moment quite often comes from people, because at the end of the week, I touch base and we go, so how many hours were you watching TV? How many hours were you on social media? How many hours were you doing, completely unimportant, irrelevant things? And, how much crap were you eating and drinking? And they go, like, oh my God, I didn't realize. I said, great. Now you do. So now it's up to you if you choose to do something about it or not. And
That's a
that's the key.
great exercise for everybody out there. So we want critical thinkers, right?
Yep.
And we want people to do an exercise to start looking at what they are focusing on in their life, half-hour intervals, yeah,
Yep.
and what they're eating and drinking, and do that
Yep.
over a week, yeah.
Yep.
Because
Yep.
isn't one of the other little gorgeous little mottos out there, know thyself?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And I'm not saying you can never have a chocolate bar, or look at Facebook, but do it consciously. Say, I know this chocolate biscuit is not good for me, but I'm going to have one tonight as a treat, or I'm going to have an ice cream because it's a hot day, or whatever it is. That's perfectly fine. I'm not saying you can't have any more fun and or
Yeah,
anything, but
yeah,
it's just do it consciously.
yeah.
Be aware of what you're doing, and make conscious choices, rather than just doing it automatically and reaching for the cookie jar or whatever it
Well,
is.
it's finding some balance and seeing
Yeah,
where there's excess as well.
correct.
Yeah, it's just self awareness, which is
Yeah,
wonderful.
yeah.
Okay, so what now? How do people get in touch with you?
So, I mean, obviously, the simplest thing is just to go to our website, just knowyourrightsgroup.com.au. You'll find tons and tons of information there. So that's the best place to start. People are welcome to follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Again, just look up Know Your Rights Group. You'll find us there. We've got a BitChute channel. We've got a YouTube channel. You can listen to our radio show every Tuesday night. Again, you do that through the website. So you'll see
All the
that
links are there. All the
yeah,
links are
there's a
there.
radio show tab, and you can just click on the listen live. So yeah, everything's there. Everything's there, and on the website and on social media, and
Fabulous.
yeah.
Fabulous. So thank you so much for your story today. Thank you for coming from Burwood and the starts of things back there, and explaining to us how you connected with the groups along the way. You've continually transformed yourself and others along the way. And change, continuous change is important, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely.
What happens to us if we don't change?
Well, as I say to people, the world keeps spinning. So even if you stop for a moment, you're actually going backwards, because life is evolving. Life's always constantly moving. So if you're not moving at the same or greater rate, you're actually going backwards. So
And
again, just
what's the
something to be aware
price?
of.
What's the price you pay when you stop, when you're trying to sit in that comfort zone?
Well, look, again, don't get me started on comfort. This is the biggest killer in the world is comfort, because that is the stuff that's, look at the statistics of how many people die within 5 years of retiring
Yes,
because they've become comfortable
my father
and
was one.
they
Yeah,
stop. And
yeah.
that's what, so that's the ultimate price, is literally death.
Mm.
Um, but Australia, especially, so many people still have this "she'll be right, mate" mentality,
Yeah.
and because you know what, everyone bitches and moans about taxes and fines and this and that, and everything else. But you know what, people have still got a fridge full of beer. They've got a big screen TV to watch the footy on,
Two
and they're
cars.
comfortable. They don't. They're not like some places where there's people standing with AK-47s on every second corner and bombs going off and stuff like that. We are really still very, very comfortable.
Yeah.
And that's the problem, because when you're comfortable, you don't want to rock the boat. You don't want to potentially move into a position of, uncomfortable. But
Mm.
that's uncomfortable is where you learn and grow. Think about, your experiences in life. It's when you had, tragedies and you lost your job and girlfriend or boyfriend left you, or, the dog died. It's these moments of upheaval. That's where you learned and grew the most.
They
You don't
propel
learn and
us.
grow when you're sitting there comfortable.
They propel us onto better, don't they?
Absolutely. Yeah. Onwards and upwards.
All
Always.
right, Mike, we're done. We're out of time, unfortunately. But thank you so much. Thank you so much for letting everybody know your journey and some of the insights about you and how you think, and for helping people. Thank you for helping people. Onwards and upwards. Thank you so much, Mike.
Absolutely. No worries. Thanks, Helen.